Alrighty. Hey, folks. I only kind of need these. We'll start with them. Yeah, that's probably enough. I can only sort of see. I put up Halloween decorations, but I don't... Oh, actually, when I'm leaning forward, you can see the lights. That's alright. Because, I mean, Halloween decorations, right? Obviously, I need something, what, here, but... Maybe I could put a skull there. Ah. Alright, thank you, Pseudonita. I appreciate the feedback. Is it nice and loud, now that I've turned up the decibels? Because I want to make sure I'm not too quiet. You want to pick up on the weird little, like, noises I make. They're fun, weird noises. Oh, what do I want to start with? I'll just do these little guys. Cool, thank you. Yeah. I just tried to turn up my feed a little bit. Okay, cool. Yeah. I realized that, like, if my computer pinged about something or, like, I got an email notification, it was super loud, my feed was kind of quiet. So hopefully the balance is a little better for everybody. But... Hey, Shard Mom, how are you doing? I don't want anything else, actually. I don't want these guys. And these guys. I'll just get a bunch of tools. So tonight's only really moderately gross. I already have a sign that says mostly not gross. Oh, I'm so glad to hear it's a nice day in Ohio. Today we started off with some sun and then got gross and rainy. But hey, Library Rat, good to see you. But yeah, I'm doing picky little stuff today, so it's not going to be as gross as like the skulls have been, but it's kind of gross. Hey, Not Here, good to see you. It's nice to have the gang roll in. Happy Saturday, everybody. Good to see you all. Well, see. I appreciate your textualness. Oh, yay! Trillian's watching. Well, don't tell her that there are rodent skulls in this bag. Probably wouldn't care. But, being a chinchilla. But, I'm glad to know that one of my viewers is a chinchilla. I have to say I'm actually pretty honored by that. So, there we go. So, I have the sheep skull in a box next to me. But I have these 3 little mouse skulls that I started a while ago. And I started soaking them in hydrogen peroxide. And I figured I'd play with these first. Because I might be able to just finish them, which would be really cool. Get them out of my freezer. And then I'll work on the big guy. Because I do have a roadkill squirrel that I picked up who is only slightly mooshed, and so I want to skin that guy at some point. But I realize I really don't want to do any fur-bearing taxidermy until I have a place to put it. So I have the quail, and I have this squirrel now that I need a cat-proof option, so I haven't actually figured it out. But hi, Clara. Yeah, no, you're right on time. So I won't be doing any like skin-on taxidermy for a little while. I have in-house technical stuff I got to figure out. So I want to just wrap up these bones, get them out of my freezer, get them ready to go, and it's a long process. So I've been this size of skull is the one I'm most used to working on. I'll get these stinky little friends out. Stinky little friends. Oh, they're so stinky. Alright, there we go. So I'm used to working with skulls that are this big, not working on sheep. So I still have to look up some solutions for how I'm going to deal with that. But yeah, Library Rat, these are the 3 mice from the open house. So I've got them already pretty far along. You know, I'm pretty happy with that. So these are those 3 little mice. And I'll get them darn near done. So for people who are choosing to watch the stream, and again, things are going to be moderately gross today. Oh, I forgot to turn on my extra light. Hold on. I want to make sure you guys can actually see this. Ah. Snake lamp. Don't do the snake. Ah. Okay, hold on. Minor technical difficulties with lighting. Okay, so I have this weird bendy lamp that I'm currently doing battle with because it is unbending in a way, but I think... Okay, and then I'm going to turn on this other light. Alright. Please refocus. Camera. Is the camera on autofocus? It shouldn't be. Always something. I absolutely tell you. But my hands are clean enough, because I just took my gloves off, that I can mess with this real quick. Configure video. No autofocus. Please do go away. Save. Okay. Man. Alright. Now you can actually see them. Okay. I think we have sound and lighting and video and dead things. Go back to this. There's a benefit to using these gloves that are absurdly too big for me, as they do just slide right off. So I don't necessarily have to have new gloves every time. Which is an absolute contradiction to what I always did in my lab. I made my volunteers throw out any glove they took off. And I was right to do so. But it's my house. So, sorry anybody who I made you do that. I wasn't wrong. I'm just lazy because I'm at home. So anywho, I was starting to talk about how cool these are, and I got distracted by technical difficulties. But if you guys are watching the video, you can kind of see that one of these skulls is a different color. This one's way lighter than this one. And that's because all the brains came out of this. These two, there's still brain inside of them. So I got a little bit of cleaning to do, but this one might be darn near done once I pick some of the extra tissue off. Maybe a little bit of extra soaking. And then these guys I gotta poke around a little bit. Yeah, you can actually see the brain still in there. So, a little bit of cleaning. But I have my little jar that I can soak them in. And I've been researching more ideas about how to do at-home bone cleaning now that I don't have a lab where I can leave something that's vaguely stinky, moderately stinky. Because in my house, if it's interesting at all, there's a cat issue, like right off the bat, so I have to keep my cats away from it. And it's not a lot's actually going to change. It really looks like, for me, since I can't have Dermestid beetles, which, as Clara knows, are gold standard, I don't really want to screw with anything really bad smelling. I think hydrogen peroxide is going to remain my go-to on how to clean these guys. I just have to scale that up to sheep. So I don't know if that means getting a Costco membership or what, to be able to buy that much hydrogen peroxide. Or just continually weird out the people at my local Walgreens, as I just buy liters and liters and liters of hydrogen peroxide. Which, bear in mind, I actually don't mind weirding them out. I find that really funny. But, you know, it's also slightly inconvenient to have to go back all the time and buy even more. Oh yeah, there was a ton of brain left in here. Sigh. Here, actually, let me take the glove off again. I might as well put some hydrogen peroxide in my little cup here. Ugh, those brains smell. Brain smell. P.S. If anybody's ever wondering, brain smell. But... Ooh, so can I actually get it from, like, a Sally's Beauty Supply? Or is it just, like, salon... product sellers that sell in bulk? I mean, any hookup. I'm gonna have to look around, because we had a wonderful volunteer in the lab who always just got hydrogen peroxide from Costco. But yeah, okay, so I should go look at a Sally's, because like a Sally's Beauty Supply might have exactly what I want in reasonable amount. So I've got it in the hydrogen peroxide, so everything gets whiter immediately, which is so satisfying. I don't know how well you can see the fizzing, but the hydrogen peroxide just immediately fizzes up all that tissue I just bothered, which is pretty great. I did let these soak a little longer than I intended, which means that all the hydrogen peroxide finished reacting, and the product that was left was water. So these were basically sitting in water, and then they got real stinky. But yeah, okay, so yeah, Clara, I had been reading about using the peroxide cream, and yeah, from what I've heard, that stuff's pretty noxious. So I might stay within 3 to 10% hydrogen peroxide solution. For those who don't know, the hydrogen peroxide that you buy at Walgreens is almost always diluted to 3%. If you put pure hydrogen peroxide on your child's skin knee, you would destroy their knee. It would just eat away at the tissue of their knee. Whereas if you put 3% hydrogen peroxide solution on your child's skin knee, it kills the bacteria in all the gravel that's stuck in their knee, and it heals, and, you know, it fizzes, and it's kind of cool. For all you parents out there. Of which there's at least one that I know that's watching. Hi, Shard Mom. Okay. So, that one, let that guy fizz. Let's get the brain out of this other one. And this one, you can, like, see it. There's still, like, a big old plug of brain. I was really lazy with trying to get this out. It makes a difference if you can get it out, you know, but sometimes you're lazy. Man, this smells bad. Woohoo! Brains. Rotten brains. Rotten mouse brains. There we go. Happy October. I always try to think of a way that I can describe the smells since, you know, unlike when I was at the desk in the museum, people can't experience this along with me. And so, what does rotten mouse brains smell like? Man. I mean, I can give poetry, so, like, it smells bad, but it smells like sewage. It's, there's almost like an overcooked spinach smell to it. Yeah, if anybody has an idea, jump in. Like, rotting meat, okay, here's the difference. Rotting meat usually has a sweet smell. Like, there's a sickly sweet smell to, like, rotting muscle or, like, a whole rotting animal. Rotting brain doesn't smell like that. Ooh, that was a big piece. Rotting brain has, like, a boiled spinach combined with new tires, combined with, like, turpentine smell. Yeah. A little bit of that. So, it's the best I got. None of those things are really great. Like, new tires kind of have a positive association. It's kind of cool, but it's not good. I think new tire smell is my favorite unpleasant smell. If one was to categorize such things. But if you want a catalog, there you go. Oh, there's some old tissue on here. Blah. Let's get this. But yeah, like, I think a lot of people have at some point or another experienced the smell of, like, a whole dead critter. But, yeah. Yeah, skunk is another kind of favorite bad smell. I would agree. It's really eye-watering when it's fresh, so good on you for still being okay with it, even though your dog smells like it. But yeah, there's sort of a interestingness to it. One of my innumerable weird jobs over the years is I worked in the office of a preschool at a Jewish temple. And if you're associated with a preschool at all, you're going to be talking to children. It doesn't matter that it wasn't anywhere near a classroom. Because, like, if the teachers needed something from the office, they would take 3 kids with them so that they didn't leave the other teachers in the classroom with all of the kids. And that helped maintain numbers of teachers in the classroom. And so kids would come visit me in the office if the teacher needed something of some sort. And, you know, they would want to tell me about what they were working on. And I remember there was one particular lesson where the kids, around October, were exploring pumpkins. And so they had fresh pumpkins in the classroom, and they were told to use their senses and describe them. And it was so funny because the kids were faced with the fact that raw pumpkin is kind of funky and doesn't really smell great. And trying to articulate what it smelled like, the descriptions were funny. Because, I mean, just all over the place. Some of them just said garbage, like, alright, that's, legit. And then some of them were like bushes. Or, like, it was really weird. So, but it's a hard exercise to actually describe what something smells like if you really think about that. Like, what do oranges smell like? They smell like oranges. Like, oh, nuts, that doesn't help. So, it was a cute exercise. Woo, education. And let me tell you, perks of working at a Jewish preschool is on Fridays you often got little fresh challahs with sprinkles on them, which is pretty cool. Like, and you'd assume that every child freaking sneezed on it, so, pros and cons, but it was fun. So I'm trying to get just a little bit more, my hand over here a little bit, of the soft tissue off on this one. The first one I just dunked directly back in the hydrogen peroxide, but this one I'm going to try and detail a little smidgy more before I bother popping it back in there. Because interestingly, I actually find it's easiest to let the tissue dry a little bit when I'm really trying to get it off the bone, but you also have to soak it to let the hydrogen peroxide kill everything, and it does loosen things up a smidge. So, it's a push-pull. So here's a weird bit. There's this little, yeah, you guys can see that. There's this feathery little bit of tissue here. That's basically the connection for the really big chewing muscles in the front. And it's kind of tendony and thick and really, it's actually embedded in a little hole in the bone. And so it's hard to get it out. Ugh, and it smells bad. There's like an element of dog breath, which maybe kind of folds back on itself because dogs eat all sorts of weird stuff, so who knows, maybe they eat mouse brains. I have known some dogs that I'm pretty sure eat some mouse brains. I have also known dogs that were way too prissy and would never lower themselves to such a thing. But that's different. Library rat, I'm back to thinking about your poor pup getting skunked. That's, like, it's such a classic dog owner thing, and the fact that you have a real big dog, like, there's a lot of real estate there to cover in skunkness. If you had, like, a tiny little Yorkshire Terrier, I think it would be less of a deal. What? Yeah. Man, thinking about smells too, oh. Yeah, and Duchess was a lot smaller. Oh, poor Sunday. She's a good dog. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do ventilation in this room as the weather gets grosser. Because I do have a window, but, like, if it's 5 degrees outside, am I gonna have the window open? So do I have to, like, only work on certain types of projects during the winter? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how I can kind of balance what I want to do in here with what's actually, safe and or wise. So you guys can probably almost barely even see what I'm removing. There's just tiny little bits of slippery, gross white tissue left behind from the first time I was picking at this guy. Which is good. I don't really want there to have been a lot. I did want to have done the work. But it's, like, super tiny because it's a dang mouse. Ooh, that's like the inside of the ear. So that's good to get out. Oh, yeah, you can really see into that ear hole now. Yay, good. Poking around online, I found a really cute description of how to make a way to clean skulls out of a baby bottle sanitizer. So I'm going to keep an eye on FreeCycle and see if I can get a baby bottle sanitizer, because then you basically, very at low temperature, like, you can keep the specimens soaking in these little trays and, add some sort of soap and things like that and let it just kind of cook away. And then it can be in there and warm for a while, and that would really loosen stuff up. And again, probably smells super funky, but, those sanitizers aren't big, so I'd be able to put, like, a couple mouse skulls or bird or something in there. I'm hoping, it sounds like I have a hookup to get a bag of rats that were intended to be fed to snakes, but are really old and kind of freezer burned, and so they don't want to feed them to the snakes anymore, so I might get like a whole bag of rats. Friends. Nice people want to give me bags of old gross rats that aren't good enough for snakes. Sometimes people just get you. Oh, so speaking of snakes, moving in that direction, I'm going to start doing a just chatting stream on Tuesdays, because I spend a lot of time sitting right here in front of my computer doing research, and I figured I can just do that while sharing my screen and chatting with people about what I'm looking up. So if you guys are interested, on Tuesday afternoons at like 1 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to just be hanging out chatting, not doing any work, so there won't be this camera won't be there. Oh, Chardon Mom. Yeah, no, I'm really bummed about that emoji. It still says pending. So for people who are newish to Twitch or didn't know about this, when you reach affiliate status, which I have, it unlocks the ability to have a bunch of things. So like for anybody who watched a ad when you first popped on, thank you. I do get ad revenue, so thank you for watching the ad. I think there's also an ad that might play when you wrap up, or when I wrap up. Again, thank you for watching the ads. But one of the big pushes they have is you can upload your own emojis. So the little emotes that you guys can add to chat, I can have my own. Rock and roll, right? And they make a big deal about it. But until you've been at affiliate level for 60 total active days, so not like 2 months in real time, but actually 60 streams, you can't just upload an emoji. It has to go through a review process. And it's still pending. I uploaded that thing on Thursday morning. It's Saturday. And so is it going to take like a whole week? I just don't know. And I am vaguely annoyed. So, yeah, so Chardon Mom, hopefully that's going to appear ever. Hypothetically, the system works. But I checked right before starting the stream and it still says pending. So, I'll get you guys fun emojis. I promise. And I am hoping that by the end of next week, I will have new artwork up just on my my about page. So like when you go to my stream page, or my channel, sorry, there's a word. Haha, my channel. When you go to my channel, like the banner will be different and things like that. I have a fantastic artist I've been working with who is based in California, and she and I used to walk dogs together. So this is someone I knew years and years and years ago when I was a professional dog walker. And she, in that time, I've gone off into taxidermy and she's gone off into art, and that's really cool. So I'll have her stuff. Oh yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that art. The stuff that she's been sending me has just been phenomenal. So get excited, and yes, it features a lot of skulls. Like a lot. But that should be interesting. So we'll have all that hopefully finalized early next week, and hypothetically, Twitch will let me upload it ever, and then y'all get to see it, and that'll be really cool. Yeah, it's amazing, all the behind the scenes stuff that you can fiddle around with, but it's all very specific. So been learning a lot about the Twitch setup. Oh, that's probably not something I want to move. So there's right across the nose here, you guys can kind of see, right across here there's a divide between these long, thin, like sinus bones up here and the rest of the skull. I think I accidentally loosened that a little bit, but I want to get this... There we go. Yeah. So I have to get this little membrane off here, but I almost just stuck my probe like right through the skull. Mice, it's like they're really small and delicate, I tell you. Ooh, that was a good piece. Yeah, so this is really coming along. It smells terrible. But the nice thing is you soak it in hydrogen peroxide like twice and pick all the bits out, and then it will never smell again. It's totally just clean and stable. It just needs to dry out. So. One of my cats is meowing to get into here. I think he knows I'm up to something. I had to kick Rumi off my chair. I don't know if anybody was on Twitter. I tweeted a picture of Rumi totally bogarting my chair. So he's like, you're obviously spending time in here. I will spend time too. In the big chair. That's just how he rolls, really. Alright, so that skull's looking really good. So this is pretty darn clean. So I'll put that in hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so this is cool. So you can see the difference between the two skulls. So the one that I just put in is this one. And it's fizzing. There is a reaction here, but not as much as the first one I put in, which I hadn't cleaned as much. So that's good. That means that I really did a pretty good job getting a lot of the shmoo off of it, which I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, Rumi loves me. He's a good boy. Except when he's not. Alright, let's take that first one back out. It's like a blob of nothing. I obviously have a lot of tissue I left behind on this, so... Ooh, yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah, I had a ton I left on there, so... And so doing this process, but to the sheep skull is going to be really interesting, because there's just so much of it. But I think that's just going to have to soak for longer. Everything's just going to be longer, you know, which is fine. That actually is totally logical and reasonable. Okay, my cat stopped crying. If he starts really scraping at the door, I might have to let him in. Clean all my stuff up, let him in, and be like, look, there's nothing in here. Probably won't work, though. I'll probably figure out I'm hiding something from him. Last week, my cats were hilarious. So last week, I did all that big work on the sheep skull. And, as discussed, sheep has a smell. If anybody's ever eaten lamb, eaten goat cheese, stuff like that, it has a specific taste. That taste is also evident in just the smell of it. And so my whole workshop smelled like sheep. And I cleaned everything. You know, I do everything at this desk. So I don't know if you guys can tell, there's like a shiny layer here, and you can see this line of masking tape. So this is actually a layer of, it's like the front plastic piece from a really cheap frame that I taped down, and then that I can totally, like, clean and wipe off when I'm not using it, so then I can just use my desk as my desk. So I disinfect everything. I clean every surface. I put this surface away. I wipe down my keyboard and my mouse even if I didn't touch them. You know, blah, 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 blah. I have a whole system. And that cat inspected like every molecule of my workshop. He was everywhere. Like, where's the sheep? Because of course I can't scrub the air. I have, you know, my exhaust fan in my kitchen going and things like that, but there's a limit. And man, he was like on a warpath trying to find the sheep head. It's as if they have much more sensitive smell than we do. How strange. Sense of smell. There's this weird piece right inside the eye. Oh, there we go. Ha ha ha. I just had to start complaining about it, and then it came out. I continue to hate these gloves. I really need to buy additional ones. Oh, although yesterday I finally figured out a term. So, bit of language trivia for you guys. There are effectively latex gloves for just single fingers. And so instead of wearing this entire covering, you can just cover your index finger and thumb, or, you know, whatever. They're called finger cots, C-O-T-S. And I think I might need to grab some of those, too. Because I'm going to want full gloves for doing, like, big projects. But for, like, a little thing like this, I could probably get away with just 3 fingers at most. Or, you know, with some of my bird projects, you know, if I have a cut on my finger, I would want to cover it, but I don't actually need to wear a glove. And it was funny because in the lab, people would make their own finger cots where they would just take a regular glove and cut off the fingers they needed to cover and throw away the rest, because you want the use of your hand. It's way less invasive. And I didn't know the words for it, so that's my trivia for you guys. Finger cots. Yeah, they look like finger condoms, so I'm not surprised that's what you heard. That's absolutely what they look like. But, yeah, cot. C-O-T-S. And that's the sort of thing where I do all this research for supplies or, you know, how to do the projects I would have coming up or whatever like that. And it's, you know, so that's what I'm going to be doing on Tuesdays. But I will also try to share the cool things I find if you guys are just on, because I think all that stuff's real neat. I've been doing a lot of research into diaphanization. So that might be a thing in the future. I have to buy a lot of stuff, though. So that's the clearing and staining of specimens, where you get like a cool see-through critter where you can see that the bones and the cartilage are red and blue, but everything else is clear. And they're really pretty, and they're really neat, and they're really useful. And they take a fairly long amount of time and a bunch of chemicals I don't own. So I have to look into how I do that. And I basically looked up how to do the process, so now it's a question of, like, can I actually acquire all the chemicals that I would need for that, and do I want to actually have them in my place of residence at all? You know, do I have to tell my landlord? Because working out of your house is so different than working out of a lab. Nobody is surprised by this revelation, but, you know, still is a little bit of a revelation. And unlike some people who have a shed, Clara, I do have to be mindful if I'm keeping stuff, like, in an apartment with other people living in different flats. Have we talked about how great Clara's shed is and how jealous I am of Clara's cool shed? Life goals. I need a creepy shed full of weird dead stuff. Well, I got this cleaner. So a funny thing about working with an artist who is not specifically into, you know, science and bones and things, is seeing what that person focuses on that I wouldn't have thought of, or things that they don't focus on that, like, is my whole world. And so my artist's name is Aaron Cohen. So Aaron did a bunch of skull drawings for me, which you guys will see hopefully again by this time next week. I should have everything up. And when she did a rodent skull, she really focused on those front teeth because, okay, it's a rodent, it's got the bright orange front teeth, absolutely. And not on these ginormous zygomatic arches, these big loops of bone that stick out from the side of the head. She has them really close to the skull. And that's one of those things, it's a cartoonish artistic interpretation, so I didn't make a big deal about it. I just found it really interesting that that's not what she looked at, whereas if I'm looking at a rodent, all I'm thinking about is those cheekbones. I think they're really cool looking. But, you know, just what do people focus on? And it's been so much fun to point this artist at different sorts of interesting skulls. So if people are at your computers right now and want to Google some really cool stuff, you should Google what a rabbit skull looks like. A rabbit skull does not look like what you think it would look like. For one thing, it looks like it's made of lace. Like, why would you describe bone that way? Well, Google rabbit skull. You know, and so it was really funny because she was asking for ideas about which skulls to do, and so of course I'm trying to think of the most interesting standout ones, and I was like, well, rabbit. She's like, okay, sure, no problem. And then later she's like, what? And it was great. So it's kind of fun to flip out an artist in California from way over here. And don't worry, once we get her stuff up, I'm going to have a link to her main art page and stuff like that. So if anybody's curious about more of her stuff, that will be posted. Because support artists, everybody. Artists, they need more than exposure. Thinking on that, I read it was a BBC article, I don't remember, that apparently there's a bakery in London that is kind of anti-influencer now, because influencers keep contacting this bakery and being like, hey, give me a free cake, and I'll talk about you on my website or channel or whatever they're doing. And this baker's like, you guys need to leave me alone, because it's a bakery, and the internet is global. So if you have 20,000 followers and none of them are based in the town where the bakery is, it doesn't do the bakery any good. And this baker kind of went off on this like tirade against influencers asking for free cake all the time. I found that rather delightful. Whereas like if someone's an artist or cosmetic company, things like that, then you can potentially have a global reach because you can ship your stuff. But if your specialty is tall, thin, elegant cakes covered in fresh macarons, then you don't really care about the global reach. And yeah, I didn't know that was particularly a thing, though, that influencers would bother people for freebies. It makes sense. Like, when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that, I guess, sure, but again, exposure. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, guys. And the baker was really funny. She's like, it's a cake. Just pay me. It's not like it's $10,000. It's a cake. I'm sure as cakes go, they're pretty pricey. But ooh, I just got a really nice big piece off. Nice and big. It mouse quantities of nice and big. Yeah, you guys can see some of these little weird tendrils I'm getting up. Oh, that was, yeah, see, there. That's a big piece. I also did start Googling around about, how people sell skulls. And you can definitely sell just, like, a nice clean skull. People just will buy one because they're super neat. It's just cool to be able to look at a real skull in detail. But then you get into the weird stuff And I've been kind of half joking about bedazzling one of these sheep skulls. I might need to do that. I might need to just sit down and affix, 3 pounds of sequins and rhinestones to a sheep head and giggle the whole time. And it sure looks like people are successfully selling those. So if anybody wants to pre-order a bedazzled sheep head, I can talk. That sounds fun to me. I actually knew somebody from my high school who, in like the early 2000s, was kind of a big deal because she was just affixing rhinestones in grids to various objects for exquisitely rich people, including some singer who escapes me at the moment. I don't remember who it was, but she affixed, a grid of square rhinestones to this person's microphone, and it, all the big deal. So there's a market for it. I lost track of that particular high school person. I gotta dig her back up. And obviously ask her about the wide world of putting rhinestones on things. Like, I think they may literally have been square cut Swarovski crystals. Just go for the thing you expect the most and work it. Alright, this one's pretty clean. I say that and then I get a big chunk off. I always do that. I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm not. Clearly I have to start saying that sooner and maybe I'll just wrap up faster. It's probably not actually how that works. Man, my nose is kind of stuffing up. I think from the smell, it's like irritating my sinuses enough. Also, like, heaters are on now, and I'm, that like beginning of the season, just kind of stuffiness. I did get my flu shot this week. If you guys haven't gotten your flu shots, remember to get your flu shots. They super suck and I hate them, and it's real important. Like, I got one of the worst vaccine reactions to my flu shot this year than I've gotten in a while. And I think it's all the worst because you're like, oh god, is it COVID kind of thing. Because the site immediately was sore and red. Okay, fine, that's I get that basically every time. But then I started to feel kind of feverish and really run down and terrible, like 2 hours later. And so I'm sitting at home and I'm like, oh no, do I have the doom? And I seriously was like, oh god, how did this happen? And then I was like, oh, I got my flu shot today. I'm such a dingling. And then right on cue, I basically wrote it out for like 2 hours, made some tea, and then it went away, and I was fine. But good, Chardon Mom, that lady who you babysit for is a brilliant superstar, making you get that flu shot. Good for you. I hope your vaccine reaction was mild to possibly non-existent. Because, yeah, no, everybody get your flu shots. We've got that one solved, like, everything this year is kind of up in the air medically, but flu, we know what to do. Just go do it. And you can just hate every minute of it and complain to everybody you know. You can get on my channel and talk about how much your flu vaccine reactions sucked, or how much you hated waiting in line, or whatever. I will listen. But oh yeah, ooh, Chardon Mom, bringing it on. Did the person who made you get a flu shot get their flu shot? Bring that peer pressure right on back. Take it home. Yeah, I used to be kind of like so-so about getting my flu shot. You know, I missed a couple years here and there, and then I started working at a museum, and I was surrounded by human beings, and so I was like, yeah, no, I need to do that. And a lot of my volunteers were like immunocompromised, and wouldn't I feel like a jerk if I knew I had gotten somebody hospitalized because I had a mild sniffle and they had had a kidney transplant and their body couldn't fight off the flu? So, yeah, I had like two or three people that I knew of, and of course, who knows who you don't know about. I had two or three volunteers I knew of who had transplants of some sort, and so if you've had a organ transplant, you're on the blockers for the rest of your life, and part of that is repressing your immune response. So I had to look out for them. And then at least two people I knew within the last year had been going through cancer treatment, and cancer treatment, of course, just rips your immune system apart. And like you just don't screw with that. And then all the tiny like newborn babies and just people who are older and just, you know, general bad luck that comes up. So get your flu shot, because you don't know the people who need it, because they didn't necessarily tell you, because they probably don't want to talk about it. Because man, people who are dealing with cancer, you can't always tell. I had this one phenomenal volunteer, and it really sucks to not know what's happened to everybody. You know, being laid off after we'd been apart for so long, I don't know the ends of any of these stories, which is kind of annoying. So I just kind of hope everybody's fine. But I had one particular gentleman who was a phenomenal dude, and he basically had just been forced into retirement at his job and been diagnosed with cancer at the same time. And that's when he started volunteering, because he needed to go out and do something. And I was like, welcome to the team. Let me roll out a red carpet. Oh my God. And so he was, a lot of time you couldn't tell, but he would give me updates when he needed to, you know, I won't be in because of blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of nuts, the stuff that you can just so easily not see. In large part because people just don't want to always talk about it. But he was a good guy. And this particular volunteer was brilliant. He was an incredibly tall human being. Like, I don't know, he must have been like 6'5", 6'7", something like that. He was a really tall guy. Really skinny. And he loved talking to kids, but of course he's just massive. And so what he did was, all my volunteers wore these green aprons with big pockets in the front, and he would take a stuffed animal and stick it in one of the pockets. And kids would often ask him why he had the stuffed animal. And then he would start a conversation. Oh, you know, this is a bee. Did you know they're really good pollinators or whatever? Do you want to play with it? And then suddenly he's everybody's best friend because he has a stuffed animal. And it was brilliant. He had a lot of these little tricks to just, you know, deal with the fact that he was a skyscraper but wanted to talk to small people. Have I mentioned he was a fantastic volunteer? Good Lord. Do you get cooler than that? I don't know. And the answer is no, you don't get cooler than that. You just can be cooler in different ways. Okay, that's looking really good. Oh, I'm so happy how these are coming out. So this is the first skull that I had cleaned tonight. And but I had kind of not really due diligence before putting it in the hydrogen peroxide. That's looking real good. I am very happy. You can actually see these kind of lighter areas here. That's where the bone's actually drying out. So I'm going to soak this one more time because I still have some areas where I can see kind of some bloody tissue, the inside of the ear, stuff like that. It's just places that's hard for me to get to. So, oh, can I just get a really big chunko out? Is this like a really big thing? I don't know if this is gonna go. Nah, in the soup. Boop. That guy soaking. Ossification. Library rat, thank you. Wow. So there's a lab joke. Is it ossification? We're such a bunch of nerds, you guys. Think I talked about this a little bit with the quail, but for anybody who was not on or haven't talked to about bird ossification, let me tell you a cool thing while I work on this little guy. So passerines, little perching birds, pretty much if it's the shape of a little bird that sits in a tree, it's a passerine. So a sparrow, a cardinal, a robin, although it's starting to get outside of it, but warblers, what have you, bluebirds, finches, those are all passerines. And so passerines are cute little perching birds, and for the first year of their life, they're growing a second layer of bone in their head. So they, I never remember this word. What is the word for the soft area on the top of a human baby's head? There's a specific term for that. So you can't like touch the top of a human baby's head for the first little bit because it's solidifying. That's actually ossifying. And so birds take that to the next level because that's just what birds do. And so they have this thin bubble of bone that's their skull for the, when they're first born, and it looks like a ping pong ball. It's super thin. You can actually like bend it. It's really, really ill. And then over the first year of their life, they slowly grow. Yeah, fontanelle, I think that's correct. They slowly grow a second layer of bone so that their head is actually protected, instead of this like ridiculous layer that more or less just keeps their brains in. And so you can kind of get an idea about if a bird is in the first year of its life if you look at its skull and it's not completely ossified yet. And so when we were skinning birds or prepping birds in the lab, one of the notes that you would take for the scientific record is how ossified, or if it was ossified at all, a skull was for a bird. And it's such a narrow band of critters that's relevant to. So like not mammals, except for like that thing about the fontanelle. There's a few that that will come up in infant mammals of various types. But even among birds, a lot of birds are not born with unossified skulls. They're fully ossified, just because they don't need to have a super light head. They like baby perching birds basically need to put all their effort into growing flight feathers. That everything. Put on weight, build muscle in your wings so that you can fly. Nothing else matters. You need to learn how to fly as fast as possible. And so baby birds go from being a tiny little thingy in an egg to something that can fly, which is absurd. Oh my god, flight, in like a couple weeks. And that's because their body doesn't bother doing things like growing that second layer of bone around their brain yet. They're like, let's be as light as possible. We don't need this yet. Let's put all of our effort into growing the ability to fly. Let's not bother growing gonads, particularly, things like that. Everything is just, oh my god, I need to learn how to fly as fast as possible so that I can avoid predators and find food. And that's really cool. Whereas if you're like a duck, you're fine. You're done. You're already able to float on water. It's a duck. Their feathers are structured so they can always float. So, like, right off the bat, they hatch, flop around awkwardly for like 2 minutes, and then follow mom into the pond. So they're already a pretty functional little bird, but because they're precocial. But oh my gosh, what's the opposite of precocial? Wow, forgetting that scientific term. I need to look that up. But if you are not able to care for yourself right away, thank you. Out your soul. Then you need to be prioritizing what you're growing first and fastest. There's a lot of ways to grow a bird, or any other organism really. Also, Library Rat, you're on top of this. Thank you for being my my terminology checker. You're the best. And the fact that your screen name is Library Rat makes that extra satisfying. So, thank you for that. Yeah, this skull was in really good shape already. It's so funny how some of them just come clean and some of them are just absolute nightmares. Three little dead feeder mice. You just never know. Man, and it's so great. The smell is so far dissipated because at this point, I've gotten the brains out, and I've been soaking the skulls again, and so there's Shmoo. You guys can actually I should have this over here so you can see it. You know, here's all the stuff I've been picking out, but it's drying, and as it dries, the amount of smell dissipates pretty fast. So this is no longer. I would say it's half as gross as it was. So there. It's not too bad, actually. Oh, and then I don't know. No, I haven't even touched the lower jaws yet. They're still pretty chunky. I wanted to start the heads first, so I could make sure to soak the brains out, and then I'll do the jaws. So no, I got a little more work. I actually love working on the mandibles, the lower jaws. They're the bones are so smooth. It's usually a lot faster. Usually. Yeah, save the best for last. Yeah, I have two philosophies with that. If I'm working on something that is hard and unpleasant, then I do the easy parts first because I want to rack up wins. Where I'm like, I hate this. I need to feel like I'm succeeding at something. I need a win. So I'll do the easy parts first. Where if it's something that I just overall enjoy doing, I'll save the best for last because I like all of it. So why not have like a cool wrap up at the end because I'm confident and I know what I'm doing and it's pleasant. So depending on the project, I take basically opposite stances. But oh, it can make such a difference when you're working on something seriously unpleasant and gnarly. Don't wait to do the easy stuff. Just give yourself a victory. Oh, so I was starting to mention I had just thinking about holiday stuff. It's October. I really like Halloween. And so I dug out my few Halloween decorations, and Halloween's one of those things I usually actually don't decorate for very often, which is funny because I love the holiday. I absolutely adore it. Um, but I feel like it's stomped on so thoroughly by all the other holidays. It's the beginning of the holiday season. Holiday season absolutely starts with uh, Halloween. It's Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then the whole Decemberween world. Uh, and then you get a very small lull after New Year's before you fall into Valentine's Day. And then pretty much after Valentine's Day, it becomes super minor holidays and you kind of get to relax. But it's the season of eating. You start the season of eating out with candy and then go on from there. And so today it was the Halloween slash general autumnal stuff where we went out and got pumpkins and I put up decorations and it was fun. So I found these lights, and I don't know if you can see my little flashing dude in the corner there, this little flashing spider, and a couple other things around my house. And then when we bought pumpkins, I got 2 pumpkins to carve, and then just 2 pie pumpkins because I just live off of pumpkin most of the winter. I absolutely love it. I use it in everything. I make pumpkin soup and pumpkin bread and of course pumpkin pie, and I just absolutely adore it. So I got 2 of those. And I scoped out the place I'm going to buy another mushroom kit from. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to wait until the weather's a little grosser for that. But if anybody's never tried this before, you can buy kits where you can grow mushrooms in your house, inside of a cardboard box or something that hangs on a door or something. And I did that earlier this year, and I loved it. So, but it needs to be cool, because mushrooms like, dank, moist stuff. And so I don't do it in the summer. Been waiting for the weather to really get gross. Aw, not here. You guys are gonna do the pumpkin shopping tomorrow? Yay. I mean, we're right at like peak time. Now is a great time to get your pumpkins. I don't recommend carving them yet. You kind of want to wait, I think, at most a week before Halloween, so they don't totally mush out on you. And that, of course, depends on where you live. The weather will dictate how long that'll last, but I like just having them and being like looking out my window and being like, there's a pumpkin there. Hopefully the squirrels on my block won't just eat them, which they might, but... Okay, I got a few little tissue niblets on this guy left. Oh, this looks so good. I absolutely love cleaning skulls. It's so relaxing. Library rat, that is epic. I love the fact that you slice your pumpkins open at the end of the season with a sword. I'm surprised they don't just splash if it's the end of the season. I've never done that with a pumpkin. I have sliced through a watermelon with a sword. Alright. I'm going to put this one in the hydrogen peroxide. That skull's looking really, really good, so I'm real happy. These are going to be so cute. They're coming along nicely. Alright, let's let those guys cook a little bit longer here, and I'll actually do my jaws. So, these are a little juicy. Got some bits, but they should come clean pretty quick. And these have actually had a chance to dry a little, so the tissue is kind of sitting up a little bit. That's cool. Yeah, jaws have these just nice big flat planes to them, but, also the muscles on there real tightly, because it's a lot of hard work being a jaw. And finding little lower mandibles like this is like half the joy of if you ever have a chance to dissect a owl pellet. You want to find those little lower jaws of mammals. They're really satisfying when you find them. Because they tend to, like, immediately you're like, that's a jawbone. Like, it just looks like a thing. Whereas, skulls can fall apart, and they can look a little mushed up, and there's actually multiple bones in the other parts of the skull. But, like, half a jawbone is just the whole thing, and it looks great. Yeah, that's looking really good. And the other thing that I'll do sometimes is, like, if you can kind of see how this almost looks feathery. Sometimes the very end of the muscle will have a bit of tendon in it or things like that that I can't really get off. You can just kind of cut them off at the end. You can trim around them. I feel like I should be able to get most of this. I can kind of feel the groove there, but it's very ribbony. Yeah, I got a lot of that. The other thing I did this week that's holiday related, which was absolutely necessary, is I bought a big bag of candy. And I don't believe that I will be giving any of that to random children. The city of Chicago is still doing trick-or-treating, apparently. But last year we didn't have any trick-or-treaters, so I'm just going to assume that this year I super definitely won't. And all that candy is for me. And that's very exciting. And now most of it is residing in one of those little plastic pumpkin buckets that you can get from Happy Meals from McDonald's that I must have had for like 10 million years. And it's perfect. So I do have my candy fix waiting for me when I'm not picking at skulls. Although, man, okay, so here's, what kind did I get? I got the, kind of that classic mix where it's Kit Kat, Reese's Cups, Whoppers, Heath Bars, I feel like something else. So the good stuff, you know. And, something very, very important I've learned this summer, so let me pass on this incredibly important knowledge to all of you people who do eat chocolate, especially American chocolate. Reese cups, miniature Reese cups. Most people already know that miniature Reese cups are the best Reese cups. They get even better if you freeze them. Freeze the Reese cup, and then once it has been in the freezer for some time, take it out, unwrap it, and eat it immediately. Don't thaw it or anything like that. And they are like twice as good as a room temperature Reese cup. Like, this is important knowledge. Please tell everybody you know. So we bought this big bag of candy medley, but it had the Reese cups kind of mixed in. We actually picked them all out, put them in a Ziploc, and popped them in the freezer because I'd been having frozen Reese cups over the summer, and then having these room temperature ones that were in the candy bag. I was like, no, this is not the same. Ooh, yeah, okay. Thin Mint Oreos directly in the freezer also sounds like an absolute win. This is important knowledge, everybody. Please share this with your dear friends and family. And of course, keep things in the freezer and they last longer too, so you don't get like that weird white layer on your chocolate. Now, this is if you're not eating your chocolate fast enough, obviously. But I get distracted. I'll forget which treats I'm on. Yeah, come for the taxidermy and leave with more knowledge about candy. This is important stuff, you guys. Well, I mean, this is what I always do. If I'm doing taxidermy, I am thinking about food. It was just terrible. We'd all be in the lab ripping apart some animal or another, chatting about food. It's ridiculous. It makes you hungry. And this is the vegans and vegetarians too. They were part of the whole thing. I eat everything. I am neither vegan nor vegetarian. But a lot of specimen preparators are. And you still get the cooking conversations. It was really funny when people would be like, I can't believe you have vegans in your lab. I'm like, no one's allowed to eat in my lab. So it's even better if they're not going to eat meat anyway. There's no eating in the lab. Is that the one I was working on? Nuts. Oh, this is the one I was working on. Alright, I've almost got this. And as we know, if I say that, it's not true, and I find like some giant thing, you know, a second later. Yeah. So whenever you're working on a lower jaw, there's a decision has to be made about how you're going to treat the tissue between the two jaw bones. So you can see my cute little jaw here, and you can see how this part just like whoop wobbles around. There's two bones. Each side of your jaw is separate, and you have this little sliver of cartilage and connective tissue between the two bits, and that lets your jaw be flexy and makes talking and eating and the things you do with your face easier. If I leave that tissue there, these two little bits of jaw stay together, and it is so much easier to deal with. But then, of course, I'm knowingly leaving tissue behind. If I clean it out and I do a more thorough job, then there's less schmutz that's left behind, but I have to worry about keeping track of the two sides of the jaw and gluing them back together correctly and blah, 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 blah. So, pros and cons. You gotta kind of decide the route you're gonna do. So I usually try to leave it on, and then if it comes off, then fine, I'll clean it the rest of the way. Oh, it looks like I actually damaged the end of this jawbone a little bit. That's too bad. My huge human strength. Okay. Other than the dang cat hair that's on here for some reason, because cat hair, it's just in my house. Yeah, so that one's pretty clean. I think I can... I set it and then I find a big chunk. How do I always do this? Anyway, I'm gonna pop this one back in the hydrogen peroxide just one more time. And I usually at least try to rinse it in hydrogen peroxide after I pick everything off to get to the areas underneath the tissue. But... Oh, Claire, I just saw your notes. Oh, yeah. So with your really big degreaser, that tissue always comes away from the middle of the jaw. It sucks, because if you can leave it on, it's so much nicer. Your system's just too thorough. Your system's too good. Alright, so there's my little jaw. Kind of looks like wings. It should actually be more like that. But pop that in my hydrogen peroxide. Get these guys cleared out. Yeah, cleaning bones is tough because if you leave just enough tissue behind, you have to do less work. You get a nice vertebral column. All the vertebrae are exactly where they're supposed to be and they're the right distance from each other and they look really good. And that's because you left all the cartilage behind and you left all the, all the discs, all the spinal discs. So that means you didn't get that tissue out, which arguably means you didn't finish it, but then it's all in the right spot. It looks really great. So, gotta pick your battles. Because being super thorough and having everything totally clean has the benefits of it being totally clean. It's not going to have any tissue left behind. It's not going to smell, discolor, boop, 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 all that stuff. But, it's also you, the human being, have to put it all back together and make it look right. And it's a little more work. I think this one might actually come apart on me. I can feel it kind of twisting. It's too bad, but... Too bad, so sad. My life goes on. Actually, Clara, that possum skeleton that you gave me, I've kept most of the vertebrae together. I had to pop some of the connections so I could fit it into storage a little easier. But I do have most of that still connected. It looks really good even after I cleaned it. So, thank you for that. The skull, of course, is totally smashed. That actually... So, with my Just Chatting stream that I'm going to start doing on Tuesdays, I am planning on mostly just chatting and poking around on the internet. But I also might do projects like trying to glue that opossum skull completely together. because that's such a slow process. I don't really need to have a camera on it, you know. No, I love it. It's really pretty. Well, actually, here. Hey, everybody, we're going to take a break and look at a possum. This is cool. Because I think I got this jaw, yeah, in the soup. So I have one more jaw to clean. But... yeah, let me show you this great specimen. Look at this. Look how cool this is. Right? And all I did was pick all the extra tissue off of this. The bugs had cleaned it up. Clara's wonderful beetles had cleaned this thing up. And I just went through and detailed it. And it's still being held together by the cartilage. And, like, you guys can kind of see here. Trying to find... there's a good focal point. So, like, this darker stuff here, that's the tissue. That's the original cartilage and tissue holding this stuff together. And I just didn't clean that out. And, you know, down here in the spine, you can see the discs are still here. They're darker, but they're still in place. And so there's some stuff like this one kind of came undone, so I need to glue that bit. And then this possum had some damage. This dude, Clara found this as roadkill. And so, like, you can see there's a break that goes from here to here. So the hip was broken, the legs have some messed up bits. You know, it's... this poor critter died via trauma. And its head got smushed. So, you know, it's not great in that sense, but it's cool. So, and the rest of it I have back there too. So I am going to try and fully articulate this guy. And I might, this is another one, I might get arty. So Clara, I forget if I told you my idea. I might just have the head as like an explosion. Like if I decide I can't really glue it back together, maybe I'll mount it, but I'll have the head like look like it's currently exploding. Or I could do a flat mounting, so it's like a shadow box where I have, oh, let's say velvet. Let's say I have a black velvet background and I glue the bones directly to that, and then have like an explosion of sparkles where the head would be. You know, so I can get weird with this. I'm pretty excited about it. It's a great specimen. So, yeah. Thank you very much for giving that to me. I really appreciate it. It's really fun. You know, there's some benefits to not doing specimen prep at a museum. Because, of course, at the museum, I would never do that. At the museum, you really need the dude to, like... if you're going to prep it so it's going to be visible to the public, you want it to look like the thing, so having a smushed head doesn't do me any good. If it was going to be used for research, the smashed head wouldn't matter. It's not ideal. Okay, so I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. That's not true. It matters, but it doesn't totally negate the specimen. You just put all the bones in the box along with all the head fragments, and you list how it died as being smushed by a car. And then, you know, researchers can still get a lot of data out of that guy. So, in those senses, either if it's been hit by a car, it's like totally useless, or it's fine. But if I'm going to be doing stuff here that I could potentially be like selling, it just means I got to be more creative. And I think I'm middling good at being creative. I think I'm pretty okay. So, all the stuff you can't do at a museum. The creativity at the museum, it happens a lot. Actually, there's a lot of creativity you need if you're doing museum displays. But certain arenas, no. You don't take artistic license if you're actually trying to inform people about the truth. Although that does bring up, in my mind anyway, how bird ID guides work. This is one of those weird things. If you look at like a classically like a Sibley guide or a Peterson's guide, the birds in the book are drawings of birds, or in the case of like a Sibley guide, they're watercolors. Which you'd think, why don't you just show me a picture of a bird? But actually, if you pick up bird guides that have photos of birds, they're usually really confusing and actually kind of crap. Because there's, like, shadows. And... hello? I think another one of my cats is trying to get uh, the lighting is weird. So in this lighting they look iridescent green, but in this lighting maybe they look brown, and it adds a lot of variation. And so one of my favorite bird guides is the Crossley guide, because he's a Photoshop wizard. And so he photoshops the birds to have all the ideals, ideal lighting, ideal color. So he's taking a real picture, which is like the actual true documentation of the critter, but augments it so that it's more useful. And that's why they do the watercolors and stuff. You do a watercolor of a, I don't know, Wilson's warbler or something, because you want to make it all warblers. You don't want it to look like Joe Bob the warbler you happen to get a picture of. You want it to represent all warblers and all the ideals of warbler-ness. And so it's just a weird world where you're, in some cases, adding fiction in order to make the fact more evident. Might need to freshen my hydrogen peroxide. Ooh, these are making a nice hollow sound. That tells me that there's not a lot of tissue left in there, because there's nothing to absorb the vibrations when I'm tapping them. So that's really good, actually. Okay. Oh, look how white this is now. That's looking great. That's looking so great. So there's just a little discoloration right here in the really narrow sinus area. It's a little discoloration still down here by the ear. But this is looking real clean. And of course there's still like the fluffy layer of tissue I hadn't quite picked off yet, which is eternal. But man, I might not get to that sheep. The sheep is just right here being big and smelly. But I might be able to just finish doing all the detail cleaning on these mice. I think what I might do with the sheep then... I need to get a little meat off of it. I need to get a few more big chunks of meat, especially the jaws. I didn't really do diligence the sheep jaw last time. So that... dem lower mandibles, I save them to last, apparently. Now we know. So I gotta get that off, but then I might let that just soak this week in hydrogen peroxide. Try to get that extra nice. Oh yeah, this one's really nice. So I pulled the palette out so you can see these openings up into the sinus. Some of the other ones, like, they have the hydrogen peroxide hasn't really gotten up in there yet. This one it did, so you can tell it's a lot cleaner and nicer. Which I'm pretty happy about. So. Man, cleaning zygomatic arches. They're so delicate, it's so easy to mess this up. So I spend like too much time kind of focusing on it. Because you can't just rough it out. You can't be like, rip it apart, because this little, tiny little arch of bone will just snap. So I don't know how many people who are watching have ever seen, there was a cartoon series called Gravity Falls. It was great. If you're into watching kind of out there cartoons, I recommend it. And they had a Halloween episode where that featured the unloved candy that no one actually likes. And it's funny because at Halloween, candy comes out that you don't ever see any other time of the year, and there's like the really cheap stuff that people buy in the big bulk bags as just like Halloween candy that's not really good, but you kind of associate with Halloween, and it's still made of sugar. And so for the TV show, of course, it's full of fictitious names. And yeah, Gravity Falls is great. And so they had fake types of Halloween candy, and my favorite one out of that, which for whatever reason my brain just coughed up and reminded me about, was Homework the Candy. Like, nothing shrieks unenjoyable mediocrity candy than Homework the Candy, and it was a good bit. But yeah, that was a good show. It goes in some pretty weird directions. And it's about the Pacific Northwest, so if you're interested in a cartoon show that focuses on a part of the United States that most of them don't, there you go, Pacific Northwest. I do find it interesting when like a TV show focuses on something I never really thought of as not being represented. Um, I say from my point of privilege, so there, we'll take that moment. But one of my favorites is there's yet another Carmen Sandiego series out right now. Netflix is doing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Uh, and it's, again, pretty good. I recommend it. There's some slow bits, but overall I like it. But something that took me by surprise is that two of the characters are from Boston and have strong Boston accents, and how unusual that is to have a consistent character that's not just like a funny bit character that has a really strong Boston accent. And they actually have an episode where they talk about that, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, like weird representation in American accents. Boston. I don't think about Boston accents that often. Oh man, still have a decent bit of the nose cartilage on here. Yeah, I'm gonna try to grab that. Ooh, okay. I just messed this up, but in a cool way. So I mentioned the loose sinus bones. I pulled a little too hard, and you can see how they lifted off of here, so there's like a cool gap. So I can just lift that up. So I can just set it back in place. It's okay. But I did actually break that. Which is, so not what I wanted. But it's not the worst. Not stupendously uncommon, unfortunately. Alright, so nestled that back in there, which means I won't screw with the little bit of tissue that I was trying to get off on the front here, and that tissue will dry and kind of glue that back into place. So, meh. It's not ideal. I made a mistake, and it's not going to really be that big of a deal. And if it does fall off later, let's say that I broke it enough that it actually does come off, and you just super glue it. Like, not that big of a deal. You do your best not to make mistakes, and then when you realize you made a mistake, just don't make it bigger. I swear, sometimes that's the worst part, too. Like, okay, I've done this wrong. I need to not panic and figure out how to backpedal just enough that I don't just keep screwing it up. That is a challenge and a half. This looks really good. Alright, so I'm going to put this guy in to soak one more time, but there's a little bit of something here. Because, of course, I said I was about done. And then I always find some other thing. Good job, me. Oh, well. Well, once I finish this, like, 14th thing I found, this one's done. And this is another one that I have to be really mindful of on these little skulls. Over-prepping is a thing. Don't over-prep. You can just keep going. You can find every morsel of whatever, you know, and dig and dig and dig and dig and try to find everything. And what you'll find is there's a point of diminishing returns, and then there's a point where you're actually damaging it. You're working so hard to dig out these tissue bits that you're actually damaging the bone. Kind of like what I do with that sinus, where you're just pushing too hard, where you lose sight of what your goal is. And your goal is to have a clean specimen that looks good and is, you know, still representative of the animal. And if you go too far, you've undermined your own goal because you're too busy trying to get every little niblet out, and it doesn't help you anymore. So this guy, that's a clean little skull. So I'm gonna give it one more soak. But I think there's pretty much a little bit of color in one of the ears, and that's like it. This one looks great. Yeah, these guys are basically done. Okay, yeah, this one's got a little bit more. Yeah, much calmer stream this week. Not ripping apart an entire goat head and dissecting eyes. They can't all be eyeball weeks. It's probably for the best. Although I was thinking, when I start setting like subscriber goals and stuff, I might do something like if I get 10 subscribers, I'll dissect another eyeball. Or something. Something fun like that. Trying to know if I would want to do like subscriber specific feeds. Like, oh, you know, subscribe and I'll once a week or once a month I'll do some weird project that only my subscribers get to watch. I have no idea what that would be yet, but, you know, it's fun to start noodling about. For right now, if you subscribe, it's the usual basic stuff. You don't have to watch ads, and I super appreciate you. You know, so that's not bad. But I'll try to make it more fun. I'm a big fan of fun. I have been playing with having more like overlays over my screen, because right now I have my gross morning, which is just like a text box, but if I make it an overlay so it lays on top of everything else, I can have my camera views bigger, you know, things like that. So I'm trying to see if there's ways I can even tweak the feed a little bit more to make it clearer. But I think it works okay for now, you know, gets the point across. But could potentially make it cooler. Oh, and I'm also interested in feedback about ads. Like, I think I have it set up. There, you have to have ads. This is interesting. I can't turn them off. So, Twitch wants to make money. That makes sense. And I think it only shows the ads at the very beginning and the very end. But if your feed gets interrupted by an ad, I'm interested, because I think I know what setting that would be, but some of the language is a little unclear. So And of course, if you don't like ads, subscribe. Ha ha ha. And specifically, if you have an Amazon Prime account, just subscribe using your Amazon Prime account, because then you can do that for one streamer a month for free. Well, free to you. So, pros and cons of having Twitch owned by Amazon. All right, that looks really good up there. This one also has a bunch of, yeah, nose cartilage, which I don't love. I don't really want to pull those sinus bones off. You know, I could do really weird, like, subscriber challenges. Like, if I get, ooh, there's a big chunk of something. You know, I get 10 new subscribers. I memorize Lewis Carroll's Jabberwock poem and recite it while I'm cleaning a skull. I think that'd be fun. But maybe that's just me because I really like that poem. But, like, I could do interesting things like that. Because it's really funny on, you know, people who do game feeds, a lot of those challenges and goals and, you know, fun interactive things like that are a little more obvious because you're doing a game. You can just say, okay, so in the game I'll try this thing or I'll do this or whatever. And I have to be a little more careful with doing that with stuff in real life. But, you know, I'll dissect an eyeball. Now that I know how to do that, thank you everybody, then I could do that as a bonus. The skull is starting to come apart on me. I noticed the nose was a little loose and the back of the skull, you can kind of see that a little loose. So I think I might just call this guy done then. Yeah, this one's just not as... This one is a little rougher than the others. Just doesn't seem like it's as good shape. So I still have a lot of tissue on it. Oh, this one has a broken zygomatic arch. Nuts. That's not ideal. Well, what I might need to do is not work on these for a minute, and since it's getting later and maybe I'm getting tired, I'll let these guys soak, and let's mess around with a sheep head to wrap this up. Because who doesn't love a sheep head? So, ugh. Ooh, it's drippy. I don't want this to drip on my floor. Alright. Boom. So there's my sheep head. And this is already kind of coming along. So up here, I don't know how well you guys can see. There's like a little bit of a layer of some stuff here. Oh wow, that sinus was really flexy. And so this is the sort of thing that will become... Oh, there we go. There. I can like kind of get under that. There. So this is the sort of stuff that comes loose with hydrogen peroxide pretty well. Oh yeah, that's really satisfying. Woo. And under that's just like nice clean bone. And then you get all the weird detailed areas of like the corners of the jaw and everything. Those are a little tougher, but wow, yeah, that's kind of fun. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. This is cool. How isn't that satisfying? Oh, you can hear the nice dry bone there. Well, not dry, but plain bone. Oh yeah, that's a nice big piece. I did wash this just with dish detergent. That doesn't really like particularly loosen things, but it sort of resets everything, and I can see it a little more clearly. Ooh. Well, actually, that camera angle, accidental camera angle, is pretty good. All sorts of good stuff in here. Well, this is nice, though. If I can just peel this off, that when I do actually hit it with hydrogen peroxide, it'll be able to penetrate the bone faster. And I can focus more on trying to clean out the sinuses and other grody stuff for me. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay. Oh wow, yeah. Getting really under there. So basically this layer that I'm pulling off of the sheep skull, which is huge and I'm like leveraging and it's actually hard to do, is what I've been picking off those mouse skulls, but it was just so much harder to see because the mice are so small. And all of this connective tissue right up against the bone. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. Also, I love this probe. I can't believe how nice this is. It has this nice tapered tip, so I'm not as worried about bending it. It's actually a strong design. So I can do some pretty weird stuff with it, and it probably won't snap on me. I mean, everything has a limit. You gotta be respectful of your tools, but... That's pretty nice. So this is kind of fun. I'm gonna soak this in hydrogen peroxide this week without cleaning the entire skull off. And so I'm interested to see, I hypothesize, I suppose, that this bone that I just got cleaned off is going to process a little bit differently. Here, you can really hear that. Move this over here. So, clean bone and not clean bone. Like, I love that. That's really cool. Also, a bunch of meh came out of the brain. Anyway, there's a cup there. It's fine. But I think that the area that I'm cleaning off will process better because there's just less stuff in the way to interact. So, but I will be an experiment because there's no way in heck I'm going to get the whole thing cleaned off before I bother putting the hydrogen peroxide on it, since I want the hydrogen peroxide to literally help me with this step. But it's kind of fun. This is the sort of thing that your flesh-eating beetles would be absolute pros at. Get that nice dried tissue on there and all those little larvae. Just, you know, eat all that deliciousness off there. For you. Hard-working little buggos. Yeah, and that's the other bummer is we're moving into winter in Chicago, and so I can't even, like, kind of sneakily hide a body like this outside and let my local bugs play with it, because it'll freeze. So not only do I have the usual things of having it be carried off by a coyote or something, but it's just cold. It's not gonna work as well. I wonder if I can get bigger on this. Nah, I probably shouldn't. Okay, well, that's really satisfying. I'm really glad to have that part cleaned off. Let's see if I can get this down to the edge of the teeth. And then I think I'm going to just try to get the really big muscles that I know I have left in, like, the jaw off. I just haven't gotten to those. use my bigger grips for this. Oh, the weird sheep gums. Sheep gums have, like, these little bristles on them. Little soft, rubbery looking bristles. And I don't know why. That's another thing. Like, I keep having these things that I keep wondering about. Because, like, I don't know anything about sheep. And here I am working on a sheep skull. That's what my Tuesdays are going to be. I'm just going to hang out and, like, look up all these questions that I ask to myself. Or you folks ask me while I'm doing this prep that I don't know the answer to. I don't know why sheep gums have that, but seeing that sheep are domesticated, I'm sure pretty much everything has been explored about them by somebody, so I might be able to just look that up and have an answer. But, you know, you gotta take the time and look it up. And look it up from a reputable source. It's hard because there's a lot of, like, cool science facts websites and things, and you know, be careful with those. Because sometimes somebody will post a cool science fact that is technically not untrue, but it's so reductionist, or it's leaving out so much that it kind of comes across as untrue. So I usually try to dig a little bit deeper. The optimal word on that is try. Like, sometimes you can't find the information, or it's behind a bunch of paywalls or whatever. But, you know, do your best. And when in doubt, call a librarian. Because if you don't know how to research it, or you don't have the ability to get past a paywall, they probably do. Because librarians, they're actually magical. And for those who didn't know that you can literally call or email them, P.S., you can do that. So now is not really the time that people are spending a lot of time out places. You don't want to talk to people in person, which is great. Don't do it. It's, like, super unhealthy right now. You can contact your local library by calling them or emailing them and ask them questions. And they are professionals at looking stuff up. They will find out for you and cite their sources. And it's so cool. And not just cool sheep facts. If you need help doing your taxes, they will help you do your taxes. Whatever. Librarians are cool. I have a friend who is the director of the libraries of Lincoln City, Washington, I think? Suddenly blanking. Anyway, somewhere on again, the Northwest. And their big thing recently has been making it, like, all over their social media is the fact they just adopted 2 axolotls, which are really big, basically entirely aquatic salamanders. I mean, they still breathe air occasionally, but they're, and they've got the big frilly, oh my gosh, gills. And so it's been all these updates about these axolotls, and it's been absolutely delightful to watch them. And there are 2 rescue axolotls, and so one of them is regrowing a hind leg, and the other one is kind of regrowing all the frills on its gills. The frills on its gills. And so you get to watch, you know, the status of regrowing a limb. And it's remarkably engaging. So, oh, that looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to stop on this. So I've got this half of the face. This is now just exposed bone versus this half, which still has, like, this thin membrane on it. So that's pretty cool. So let me get some of this other schmutz out of here. Actually, no, I'm going to do the bottom jaw. I've been wanting to do that. Let's play with this. I need an additional paper towel because this is juicy. Nice juicy sheep. There's my glorious bottom jaw. And yeah, I got this out and then I didn't do a lot with it, so there's, like, actual meat back here. It's not good. I definitely do not want that going forward. And of course, this meat is literally the part that you buy the head for and is probably delicious, and here I am just throwing it away. But, oh well. It's what I'm doing. I did set aside a toothbrush for this project tonight, but I don't think it's going to come up. I'm just not at a toothbrushy kind of step. Because mind you, there are steps where the toothbrush is perfect, but not here. Oh, I love this probe. Man, just getting under that membrane. That's so satisfying. Oh, that's so perfect. Yay. That's a cool tool. I love it. I've only had this kit since the new year. I got it for volunteering at Bald Eagle Days at Starved Rock State Park. Yeah, that was a ton of fun. I prepped 2.5 doves. Unfortunately, the morning dove that I was working on was a little too far gone. But I did a common pigeon and a Eurasian collared dove over the 2 days of Bald Eagle Days. So obviously people are there mostly to see the bald eagles, but it was cool to talk about, specimen prep. I did that in association with the Illinois Raptor Center. And so they had the live birds. They had a live eagle. They had an adorable tiny little screech owl that, got to meet the public and generally be cool the whole time. And then I had their dead stuff. But it was fun. I was there with a friend named Christy, and we basically just spent 2 days talking to people who were real excited about tromping around in the slush. This was January, looking for bald eagles over the river. It was fun. And you get a completely different crowd at a state park than at the Nature Museum in Chicago. So I spent a lot of time talking to hunters about how they did their various forms of prep and whatever. It was kind of fun to compare notes. Because it's not like you don't get any hunters in Chicago. That's ridiculous. But, less. You do get less. So. Oh, look at that perfect, beautiful jawbone. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so yeah, that's some nice, clean bone. That's nice, that's nice. Just peel all this old stuff off. I'd been struggling to find an edge where I could actually... Ooh. Come on. Yeah. Where I could get that to let go, and it's always nice when you finally find it. That's real good. Is this gonna actually come out? Nope. A bunch of blood came out. So this, I believe, is the big blood vessel that leads from the front of the jaw to, control the lip, or to feed the lips and things like that. But again, I don't know a ton about mammals, so I need to look this up. But I think that's what this thing is that's a big blood vessel that I've sort of shredded here that goes in here, because of course you don't want the big blood vessels. I mean, there are blood vessels on the outside, but you don't want the real big ones on the outside, so I think it goes through here. But I am not sure about that, and I will need to look that up too. Guys, there's so many things I don't know. Reality is huge. I don't know everything. It's just obnoxious. There's always more things to learn. You get really good at some type of animal, and then you're like, oh, but what about all the other animals? Oh god, there's so many. Reality is big. Alright. Oh, it's so nice. Okay. Let's see if I can clean this guy off. It's a big tendon connection right here. It feels completely different than the other stuff I've been working on. So there's going to be like a rough patch on the bone here. Looks good though. Yeah, that's a nice big piece. I love working on mandibles. Man, forget the rest of the skull. Just give me the mandible. They're so easy. I gotta pick at that a little bit. Yeah, I'm glad I took a break from the mouse skulls. Although it's coming up on 9 o'clock. Central Time. So I think I might keep going, but I might take a break. So I think anybody who's starting to flag all you East Coast people, I'm going to take a break. So let me know if you're not going to be back on. But I think I might come back and do a little bit more on this. So I just hit a good stride on this again. But something I'm really bad about is actually taking breaks. Yeah, no, Shard Mom, you East Coasters, you head off, get some sleep, and yeah, I'll see you Tuesday afternoon for the new thing. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take a break. This is good. We're in a good spot. So, and you know what? I'm even gonna get new gloves. We're gonna do this right. Ugh. Oh, yeah, no. I've been in a weird position. I'm taking a break. This is good. This is important. So, I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I really want to get this jaw clean. I think the rest of the skull is going to be a fight. I'll have to figure out what I want to do with that, but this I can get pretty clean. So, for anybody who's going to call it, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. For everybody who wants to hang out, I'll be back in about 10 minutes to keep working on this nasty thing. So, let's see. See you in a minute. Alright, I'm back. So, the good news is my cats had given up trying to break down the door, and we're all sleeping. So, I was able to pop out and not have it be a giant party of them trying to break in here and get to this. Which is delightful. So, anyway. So, I think it is pretty late, so I'm gonna probably knock around for another half an hour. I really want to get this jaw a little farther along. Don't want to push it too far, but I can go a little farther. And I'm using fresh gloves now. Because I'm fancy. I'm not fancy. But I'm just on a roll with this. I don't want to walk away from it. I'm really happy. I just saw the good night from Not Here, so I don't know if that was saying good night to Shard and Mom or if Not Here is no longer here, but if you're still on, hey. If not, have a good night. Oh wait, I need to pick this up. Something I've been trying to do is just to stream for longer. I'm not used to it, so I've been doing it in like 2-hour chunks. But I'd like to be able to do it for longer. It's just practice. And a big part of that is actually taking breaks, and I'm so bad at it. Because I get into it. I've got all my stuff set up, it's working out, I just kind of keep going, so I gotta practice taking care of the old human while I'm doing all this. It is interesting, certain habits from being in the labs that do translate over to having, like, my own workshop and streaming, and then stuff that there isn't the same analogy. So, like, sitting in a bad position, like, you guys notice I often have my head tilted. What a terrible idea. That's the worst. Why am I doing that? But, you're looking at it, you get into it. I totally do that whenever I'm doing any sort of prep, whether it's taxidermy or cleaning skulls or fossils or whatever. I sit in some stupid position. So that didn't change. But I think I'm actually better at taking breaks in a lab where I'm talking to other human beings and they respond to me with voices. So I talk to you guys and I get texts back, and that's great, but it doesn't break the same way as if I have to, like, turn my head and talk to the person next to me. And so it's much more like when I'm at the Field Museum, because when I'm cleaning fossils at the field, it's like white noise. Everything is white noise. There's all these big extractors on, pulling all the dust away from us. I usually am wearing some sort of, this is all pre-COVID, I would be wearing a face mask to not breathe in a ton of dust, and a lot of people are wearing noise-canceling headphones to protect your ears from the constant whine of the prep tools. And so you're kind of in this, like, sensory deprivation setup where you can't hear anything, you certainly can't smell anything, and you're looking into a microscope at one tiny little thing, so you're kind of ignoring everything around you. And that is actually much more similar to doing the prep here in my house, because I just don't have a lot of inputs. It's really interesting. Whereas when I was doing specimen prep at the Nature Museum, I mean, I'm on the floor of a museum. There's people walking by, everybody wants to know where the bathroom is, stuff like that. And it was you're just constantly being broken out of whatever train of thought you're in, for better or worse. So this is, even though this is very gooey, it kind of reminds me of fossil prep. My lab manager, Connie, would find that appalling. She is grossed out by fresh bones. Here's somebody who works on bones professionally, but she doesn't want to work on it if it's covered in meat. She works on it if it's nicely fossilized and clean. Which, okay, fine. I suppose they're different. And when you're as absolutely massively talented as Constance Van Beek, you can make decisions like that. If anybody wants to Google her, she's amazing. And, like, Connie, like, so I think I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty good at prep. I do a lot of stuff. Great, good for me. Connie's specialty, kind of the thing she's internationally known for, and I literally mean internationally known, is cleaning fossilized tiny bird skeletons. So, like, birds have hollow bones. So, like, right there, that's real hard, and she's, like, just really good. So something the size of a tiny little sparrow or warbler or something, she can get all those little bones perfect. And a lot of the specimens she works with are from the Green River Formation, which are the nice, like, flat fossils where it's dark colored fossils on a light background and they're flat and cool. A lot of you probably, if you've ever been to a museum gift shop, you've seen the fish that are from the Green River Formation, and they're, like, on a little stand and you can buy them for $50, whatever. She'll do birds from the Green River Formation, and they're just exquisite. It's just ridiculous. It's so cool to get to hang out with people who are just phenomenally talented, you know? Like, just get to watch them do their cool stuff. And I watched Connie work on this Eocene bird for months, where when the slab split, so you have, you know, literally it's layers and layers and layers and layers of sediment, and then there's some critter smooshed between them, so you crack between the layers and kind of open it up like a sandwich. And this particular bird she was working on was stuck to both sides. So when they cracked it open, you had half the bird on one slab and half the bird on the other slab. And this immensely talented human being transferred hollow fossilized bird bones from one slab to the other to get the bird all on one piece. It was absolutely absurd and magnificent. And, like, I don't know if I'd have the patience for that. I don't think I'm that cool. No one's given me a specimen quite that valuable. But, man, I'll take my ginormous Dysonodon, thank you. The fossilized skull that I have been working on for 3 years at the Field Museum is an animal that would have been the size of, like, an industrial hog. So that's a big old critter. That one I can handle. I mean, there's detail work. I'm still using a microscope on it. But it's not fossilized bird bones. Although it's cool. It's the matrix that my Dysonodon is in. It's from Tanzania, and just like in the matrix, or I'm sorry, when I say matrix, it's the rock that the fossil's in. The surrounding rock has tiny little garnet gemstones just studded into it. And these are like micro gemstones. They're, you know, grains of sand or smaller. So under the microscope, they're very sparkly. They're very pretty. And they have no commercial value at all. But it's kind of funny to be like, oh, there's all these gemstones in my way. I gotta just smash these with my microjack, you know, and blast through them so I can get to the fossil underneath the gemstones. So what I'm saying is paleontology is weird and prep is strange. So, but that's why I'm doing this. Prep is weird and kind of gross. And yet really cool. Oh, that was a good piece. That was a good piece. And so for anybody who is new to this, just in case I'm picking up anybody new as the hours get on, this is the jawbone of a sheep. And I'm trying to get all the smoosh off of it so I can have a nice clean skull. I have the rest of the head next to me. Tonight, since it's getting late, I am treating myself and just working on the easy part, which I do love doing. I really like cleaning mandibles. They're so easy. So simple. It's just a lot of flat planes. I recall there's like Paleolithic tools they found made out of jawbones. I think because jawbones are just satisfying. It's like one big piece that's just a convenient angle. So I agree with those Paleolithic humans, basically. Or, human family relations, Neanderthals and all that. Since I don't actually remember what the tool was or which ancient race it was. But, I almost feel like I need to start queuing up cool science things that I find and having like a huge folder, so when I'm like, yeah, there's this thing I read, scroll, and then I can actually find it and cite it. So again, Tuesday feed, I think that's the sort of stuff I might try to set up. Because science is big, I don't remember all of it in exact detail, but that information exists, I just have to write it down or bookmark it. I did have fun on Thursday, this past Thursday. Among some other projects I was working on, I painted a little wooden snake, and I needed to pick out the patterning for the snake, so I was posting the links of the different species in the chat, and that went pretty well. For anybody who was not watching that, it was a bull snake. I ended up doing a really cute little model of a bull snake. And actually of a particular bull snake that I knew. Her name was Bianca. She was a good girl. And by good girl, I mean she would totally, take a swipe at you if you bothered her when she didn't want to come out of her tank. She was great. She trained so many volunteers. Because anytime I had to train somebody on snake handling, I was like, I'm not giving you the easy snake. You will learn nothing from handling the easy snake. You will learn everything from handling Bianca. And she was great. She's like, I'm going to make a scary face at the newbie. You got to appreciate a sassy snake. Here's a good chunk. Oh, that's so great. There's a nice clean jaw. That's looking really good. And you can actually see it starting to dry, so it's taking on this much, much lighter color. I'm still going to bleach it, but that looks great. As opposed to, here's where it gets gory, the inside, where I still got all this mess. But since I've peeled it from the outside, that's going to come apart a lot easier, I think. So, super happy with how that's progressing. I was hoping to get this whole mandible clean this evening. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to run out of steam pretty soon here. But I bet I can get half of it clean. Just have to get this layer of fascia or whatever this is up. Oh, it's so nice. It's just coming right up. Yay! This is so good. Oh, that's so great. Okay. Yeah, so the inside is coming along really, really well as well. It's so weird to work on a mammal this big. The largest mammal I've ever done bone cleaning on, I should specify, has been a mink, which is not big. Mink are like the size of a house cat, if you elongated that house cat and made it meaner. So they're different than house cats, is what I'm saying. Science. But I've never done a giant skull like this. I detail cleaned a really old deer skull, but it was from the 80s or something. It kind of doesn't count. Because it was all dried and, not fresh meaty chunkos like this guy. That one was funny. So, museums, right? Museums are full of museum people, and museum people make museum people decisions. And so, we found, or rather I should say the collections manager found a cardboard box in some dark and horrible corner of this collection. And inside that box was an assemblage of bones. Just the weirdest, random bones, leg bones, toe bones, vertebrae, just random stuff. And a piece of paper that was obviously just like scrap paper someone had picked up that said, Mary, an osteological puzzle for you from what, Fulton, Illinois, I think? Or Thornton, Illinois, that's what it was. And that's it. No date. The only location given is just broadly Thornton, Illinois. We don't know who this joker was, and we know that Mary Hennon was probably the person they were writing to, because she had been the collections manager at a previous time. But, okay, osteological puzzle. So basically what we think happened is some Yahoo thought they were very funny and found a random assemblage of deer bones, like, next to the road or in the woods, I guess. Throw them in a box and gave them to the Nature Museum, probably because they knew Mary. And it was just a bunch of garbage, so these bones have no scientific value because there's no date, there's hardly a location. And so they can't go in the research collection. There was no skull. There was like part of the back of the jar or something like that. There was no skull and no hips. But there was part of a scapula, so part of a shoulder blade, a bunch of vertebrae, but not all of them, a bunch of the sternum. I don't even think there were ribs. Maybe there were ribs. And like it was the weirdest assemblage of garbage. Oh, library rat. Yeah, these teeth. Sorry, I just saw your note. Yeah, this thing was labeled as being a lamb, but that seems like a lot of wear and staining for a lamb. But I guess I don't know anything about sheep. But yeah, it was just the weirdest project to work on. Like, here's a bunch of garbage we put in a box. So, FYI, if you ever want to donate something to a museum, and you can, it's actually cool if you do, don't write that note. Write like a useful note. Please write down the date, my God, who you are, and exactly where you found that thing. At least write that stuff down. And you could always write down more. What was the weather like? Why, where exactly, like, kind of environment did you find it? Why are you picking it up? Why did you think it was going to be valuable? There's a lot of stuff you can write down. Don't write down osteological puzzle. Har, har, har. Jerkbag. Although I guess the epilogue of that story is we actually literally turned it into a puzzle, because sometimes you just gotta roll. And so once we figured out the correct order that the vertebrae went in, we labeled each one of them with a non-sequential number, and then gave, and they're cleaned and everything, and then it became something that the public could assemble. So can you successfully assemble a deer's foot? Can you successfully line up their vertebrae in the right order? Things like that. So we actually literally made it into a puzzle. So, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Life gives you an osteological puzzle. You just make sure that you know how to solve that puzzle and keep it as a puzzle, I guess. It just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. That's okay. Library rat, I'm delighted to see that you're still on. You're in for the long haul? This is getting late, even for Central Time. Well, you're the best. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Oh, wow, that's a big old blobbo of meat. Blobbo is clearly a technical term. Stepped away for chili. Good for you. I feel like I'm due to make chili. The weather has changed. It seems to be the time. That and pie. I'm due for pie. Ooh, cactus chili. I am intrigued. Is that in lieu of meat, or is that in addition to meat in your cactus chili? Because again, taxidermy, it makes me want to talk about food. Okay. So it's basically like a texture and bulk element. That's cool. If I make vegetarian chili, I use quinoa as opposed to meat, and it gives a really good texture because I think a lot about chili is the texture. It's got to be that thick, um, not grainy, but it can't just be like paste. And quinoa chili for a vegetarian version is delightful. Oh yeah, no, it's great. Because if I'm making it with ground beef, then I don't bother. Like, beef's got it. But if I'm making it for like a potluck where I want to be able to share with everybody, quinoa is totally the way to roll. And actually, I found that recipe, of all things, on a website that was like advice for pregnant ladies. Because apparently meat's one of the things that people can have aversions to when they're pregnant. And so there's apparently like a whole world of finding really good vegetarian recipes on pregnancy advice sites, and I found this really good chili recipe there. So if anybody is pregnant and or trying to be better about being vegetarian, here you go. It's a weird... The Venn diagrams cross at that point. Oh, look at this big blob. It's just huge garbage meatball. Almost got this out. Oh, gross. That just flicked a piece of meat that stuck just under my camera. Hee hee. There are some downsides to doing this in front of my computer. But whatever. But there, I got that cleaned out. That looks great. So just a little bit more on this side of the jaw, and then I'm in pretty good shape. And then I don't think I'm going to do the other side of the jaw tonight. I'm getting pretty tired. Oh, but it's so close. Okay, I just got to speed up. Because I love this. I love how much progress I'm making. And I really want to get this one soaking in hydrogen peroxide. So I might mess around with the main skull next week. And not... No, okay, I'll put both of them in hydrogen peroxide, but I want this one clean. And then I think I'll try doing the big skull too. I got a lot of work. Sheep heads are big. This is a big animal. Like... And again, it was listed as being a lamb. And I don't know beans about sheep, but this seems like a huge critter with really old, worn, gross teeth. It doesn't really scream lamb to me, but I don't know what, when does a lamb stop being a lamb? So, this is another one. I bet there's an answer to this, and I just don't know it, so I just have to look that up when I can touch my keyboard and mouse, which is not right now. I guess it's also possible that since this was from a Middle Eastern grocery store, maybe they label it lamb, but everybody knows it's, culturally it's actually an adult or something, or, only a year old or whatever. Because that's the weird stuff you'll get with translations where people are just like, it's good enough, I'm not going to take the time to try and figure out how to explain this in another language, which, man, I respect that, seeing as I don't speak any other languages. I can't explain anything in a different language. But... Oh, this is coming out so nice. I love mandibles. So good. Ah. See? Library rat. Again, this is why I need you. You're just the best. Okay, Sheep 101. Lamb is also the term for the flesh of a young domestic sheep eaten as food. The meat from a sheep that is older than 12 months is called mutton. Yearling mutton is the meat from a sheep between 1 and 2 years of age. Mutton has a much stronger flavor than lamb. Okay, so the price tag on this when I bought it from the deli said lamb. That was the only term. It did not say sheep nor mutton. But if that just means young, I think that might also go into this 1 to 2 year thing. So yeah, we're not talking about adorable little baby animal. This is just something that's not hit its prime, per se. So that makes more sense, because yeah, the wear on these teeth, like, that doesn't tell me super young animal. Those are some gross used teeth. And of course it's real big, but that just, I mean, food animals are usually bred so that they become really large really fast. So yeah, these are some gnarly chompers, absolutely. Took the words right out of my mouth. And they're sharp. Like, I have to be careful how I grip this. They're really pokey. It's so funny when you find herbivore teeth that are super sharp. But, you know, you gotta grind through really tough plant matter, so it's not sharp like predator teeth, but they are super sharp. Alright. Haha, that's a big old dangly bit of grody right there. Oh, that looks so good! What a difference between those two sides of the jaw. Oh my god. Oh, that's so nice looking. What a difference. Oh, that's so nice looking. Okay. Yeah, and like the ends of the bones here look pretty... you can't see the sutures very well. There's like, with the ends of joints like this, so this is the corner of the jaw where it you know, attaches to your jaw, to the rest of your head. Young animals, that you can often see like some separation there. Things haven't totally ossified, going back to that term. But yeah, this is a pretty old critter. Let's get this corner's done, and then this jaw is just done. Alright, there's some bits here, but I don't think I want to get lost in the minutia right now. Alright, so that's like half of that jaw. So I got this really good... Yeah, that side's just like really nice and clean. This side is partially clean. Not nothing, but... I still have like this front... Oh, there we go. Man, their front teeth are so weird. Herbivores, man, they're just weird. Like, there is something comforting and straightforward about predator teeth. Herbivores just have strange jaws. But they are the more advanced jaw. So it's way easier to be a predator. You just poke holes in the other thing. You know, like, real easy to be a predator. It's much tougher to do battle with plants. Like, one of the paleontologists I worked with a lot at the field, Dr. Ken Angelovic, he gave this fantastic talk once about the evidence they have about herbivores evolving significantly after land carnivores. And it's because land plants were really tough at that point. Most things couldn't eat plants that grew on land. And so it took these specialized herbivores to eventually crack the code, and until they bothered doing it, everything else that lived on land was just like, I'll just eat the other guy. They're soft. So, cows may be dumb, but in many ways they're quite advanced. But they are dumb. Let it be known. I haven't gotten this cool membrane off this side yet. It's so cool. Gotta unwrap that bone. Oh, it's really drying out. That's really papery now. So, Library Rat and anybody else who's on who has watched my streams before, what do you think is your preference? Do you like these later night streams? Does that work for your schedule? Or do you like the ones I do that are more midday? Because I like doing both. I think I'm going to continue to do both, but I'm trying to get a feel for, like, what my audience is looking for, you know. So I'm so pro, or something. Because it's interesting being in the middle of the United States, because, you know, there's a whole world out there. Trying to find times that work for everybody is literally impossible, but... Right. Yeah, I might start doing more of the evening ones too. Because in a way gross. The late night streams are kind of easy because then I have my whole day and this is just how I wrap up. But I often get tired, you know, but I get tired of the other streams too. Streaming is just a lot of work, but, you know, I'm trying to test out. I did try doing an early morning stream for a while with cooking, and no, that doesn't work for my schedule at all. So it turns out doing, like, mornings at Midwest time is totally not it. But I like evening streams like this, and I like the afternoon streams. So just gotta keep playing with it. Because the goal is to figure out how I can do more days, you know, what's going to work best for me and for my viewers, that I can actually be on more and do more cool stuff. I'm interested in trying the just chatting thing, because that feels kind of not like me. Like, my hands are always busy. I'm always doing something. But if my hands are empty and I'm doing research, that kind of focuses me in a different direction. So... if that one ends up being popular, maybe I'll try doing a late night just chatting. Because obviously the setup is real easy if I'm doing a just chatting stream. I don't have to thaw, you know, sheep heads or anything like that. So that's kind of cool. I'm really kind of happy that the just chatting thing is even as popular as it is on Twitch. Like, there's a lot of people who just chat. I found a paleontology one, which is called, like, paleontologian, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. It's a very long fake word. It was cute. And it's just a dude who just sits there and talks about cool paleontology stuff and opens windows occasionally. And I'm like, cool. You know, I could do that, sort of. I mean, he's a you know, card-carrying paleontologist, and I am so not. But still, the idea is kind of attractive to just put on the mic. I gotta get these gums off. These are weird teeth. And I don't know how well you guys can see it, but, like, let me angle this. These three peaks right here, that's one tooth. So, like, this is a tooth, this is a tooth, this whole thing is a tooth, and this, I think this whole thing is a tooth. Herbivores are weird. Herbivores are so weird. So weird. Okay, let's get back here, and I'll pick apart the front last, I think. Okay, so I just went on a mental tangent. Sorry, I was quiet there as my brain went off in 6 different directions. Thinking about food, because apparently taxidermy makes me hungry. I got thinking about Thanksgiving, and maybe I will do another cooking stream for Thanksgiving because I spatchcock my turkeys. For anybody who's not tried this or is unfamiliar with the term, when you spatchcock a bird, I guess you could do it with other animals that you're roasting whole, but in America it's generally birds. So when you're spatchcocking a turkey, you cut its backbone out completely. So you just like 2 lines down the back of the bird, shoulder to hips, cut its backbone out, remove the backbone, make soup out of it later or whatever, and then kind of open the bird up and crack its breastbone, and so you have a big flat bird instead of a big tube of bird, and it cooks in half the time and is way juicier, and it's just delicious. And maybe I'll do that because I'm obviously not going anywhere for Thanksgiving this year. Thank you, COVID-19. But I will definitely be making turkey because since I have to cook all my meals anyway, roasting up a humongous bird and, you know, eating it forever sounds actually exactly like what I'd want to do anyway. And so maybe I'll do a stream about spatchcocking a turkey. Because it's a really, really good technique. I can't believe what a difference it makes. It's so much faster than cooking the big, you know, bird-shaped bird. It's got a funny name. You really can't go wrong. And you can make it so flavorful. So, yeah, maybe I'll do that. Because I had been doing cooking streams. Because I obviously like talking about food. But I stopped because trying to do a regular camera setup in my kitchen is a nightmare. But I have a tripod now, and if it's just like a one-off, I could do that. That could be kind of fun. So, special Thanksgiving edition taxidermy stream. Spatchcocking a turkey. It doesn't actually take all that long, you know, because obviously you're still mostly roasting it. But, you know, flavor it up. Because if you're doing a really good roasted bird of whatever type for whatever reason, if you want to win at life, you leave the skin on it, but you cut slits in the skin and you lift it and stuff it absolutely full of flavor. So, you know, like whole rosemary sprigs, lots of salt, you know, just fresh, all sorts of fresh herbs. Just put them under the skin, and then make sure you rub the entire thing down with olive oil and salt, and then when you're roasting it, you baste it a whole ton, and then you end up with this like crispy, amazing skin, but then also the flavor is actually against the meat. So when you peel the skin off, it's actually had a chance to like soak into the meat and make the meat flavorful and tender, and not just dry and boring, which I've had a lot of turkey that's like that. So Don't make dry, boring turkey. That was a big animal. It deserves better. If you're gonna be eating it, do right by the bird. Because, like, I'm not vegetarian, but I'm big into respecting the animals. And, like, if you're going to eat a ginormous bird once a year and make a big deal about it, do it right. You know? Learn how to cook it. Don't just take it for granted that you just have to have it. Because if, like, I know so many people who don't like the turkey. They like everything else that you have for Thanksgiving. And they find the turkey the boring part. Well, then don't freaking make it, man. Just leave the bird out. Let that bird live. Adopt one and keep it as a pet. Whatever. But, like, P.S. don't do that. Oh, my God. Not if you don't have the right environment for it. But if you can make it delicious and it's meaningful, then make it delicious. And, you know, try to source it from a farm that's actually humane. You know, do a little research. Which, man, let me tell you, is hard because starting around Thanksgiving, a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, supermarkets start being flooded with incredibly cheap turkey. And that incredibly cheap turkey tends to stay around until, like, right around Christmas. And I have done it where I've bought, like, 2 or 3 of those, and that kept me going for months. So if you need cheap meat, like, presumably, like, hell factory farmed turkey is, when it's on season like that, is real cheap, but have to imagine it didn't live a really good life. Whereas, man, if you get, like, blah 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 free range fed, you know, gold nuggets, whatever type of bird, it can cost you $1 billion for a turkey. But it's supposed to be special, right? So, you know, maybe save up. Figure out the most humane thing to do that is right for your economic situation. Oh, hey. Aw, it only half loaded. Well, Stupid Child, thank you very much for the follow. There's supposed to be a pop-up window, and it, like, half appeared, so I will play with that. Well, thank you for the follow. As I sit here and mull about Thanksgiving turkeys. Heck yeah, taxidermy. This is a sheep jaw. I'm not sure when you tuned in, but I'm trying to clean up this thing. Is that another? Oh, hey. I don't believe that's pronounceable, but also thank you for the follow. I'm gonna go with ox. I didn't realize that new extension I had made a noise. I don't know if it makes a noise for you guys. I actually could eat this. This is, it's just sheep. I bought it from a grocery store. I just walked up to the nice guys at the deli counter and told them which one I wanted. And it cost me $7.99. So. Oh, ox. Hey now, man. None of that, thank you. It's a sheep. Do you two know each other? Is this something where I'm just on the side while you guys are having a continued conversation? Alright. To my 2 new people here, Ox and Stupid Child, I do have to request that you guys take this conversation elsewhere. Pretty offensive, actually. So, I will be taking off a glove, and I am going to be quieting you. Oh, it's a 0? My bad. Okay, give me a reason not to ban you. Go for it. I was actually probably just gonna mute, but... Okay. Because you guys can get weird on my channel, but I don't put up with racist shit. Not okay. Black Lives Matter. Etc. But being generally goofy and weird, I will put up with. Because what I want to be able to focus on is weird dead things. What can I say? But yeah, stupid child, I will assume then that that means that you do know, I guess OX. So. Hey now guys, again, no, I'm not gonna put up with that. Racism's a huge problem. And it's like a really rotten, like, long-term deep problem. You know? I don't think it's funny. It screws up a lot of people's lives, including, like, mine. It's not like being white somehow exempts you from the effects of racism. Your privilege just gives you kind of a different set of problems. Because it's weird. If you start to think that everybody around you is less than you, it makes you kind of a jerk. But... I don't know. Oh man, there's a good spot. There we go. Why is it a hobby? No, actually, that's a totally valid question. People would ask me that a lot at the museum. This is a food animal. It was dead anyway, so there's that. But also, I don't know, I think stuff like that's really cool because you get to learn about the animal. So you can make it sadistic. You can totally just be glubbing around with stuff and being weird, but this is literally just meat you could eat. So, like, if people are going to be eating animals anyway, why not save the bones or the skin or whatever and learn from it? So that's the very short answer of why this isn't specifically sadistic. Also, sadism usually has to do with harm and pain, and you know, so obviously this critter's super dead. So I'm not hurting it. It is done with that. So that's the thing. X-rays and MRIs are super important, especially because they can show you the living tissue, but you can't learn everything from them. It's kind of like how you have to see something up close. Pictures just don't really... Yeah, pictures don't give you the detail. It really depends what you want to learn. So if you want to learn how something functions, like MRIs have to do with electrical impulses, things like that. But if you want to know how the muscles attach to the bone, you gotta look at it. You know? And like, this is cool. You've got... These are the big blood vessels that support most of this, so you can see it comes out of the bone here. And you kind of miss those details if it's still got the skin on. And those gnarly teeth. Yeah, you just get different stuff out of it. I ain't engineering anything. I'm just reversing the animal. I'm gonna get a really nice jawbone out of this sheep, too. I love it. But... I once got to watch a super cool dissection at the Field Museum in Chicago, where a bunch of paleontologists who were researching a like a bird-like reptile that they had found, they went to the bird department and dissected a I don't know, some sort of crane with the bird researchers so they could learn about that ancient critter. So I mean, the stupid child, you've got a stupid child name. I'm gonna expect blah, certain stupid questions. But alrighty. There's a big chunk. Alright. Let's see. See you guys. Alrighty. Alright. Library rat, sorry about that. Anybody else who was watching? Yeah. My moderator is currently playing Star Wars Squadrons. So, I try to give people a minute. You know, if someone wants to come on and say a dumb thing or ask a weird question, I'll give them a second. But once they're obviously just griefers, you know, don't put up with it. And I'm almost done here. So anyway, sorry everybody. I try not to wield the banhammer too heavily if it's real people. Like, if it's just the bots, like, I've had bots come on my channel that are just, you know, selling something. I just ban those. They're not, it's not a person. They're not trying to do anything specific. But people like that who come on, like, I'll give it a second. Sometimes you can turn it around. I think it's worth trying. But, nah. They were obviously, in the end, just griefers. That's okay. The internet, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah, and Library Rat, it's not your job, man. I appreciate the fact that you spoke up. I appreciate that you pointed out things are inappropriate. You gotta speak up when people are being awful. But and so thank you. I think that's the, you know, first of all, hey, thanks for doing it. You didn't just try, you succeeded. You said things, it mattered. But, you know, it's my channel. I'll get them off. It's not your job. I want you to come here and relax. And if someone's getting on and they're being a jerk, you just look away. Aw, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Love you too, man. Library Rat, you're fantastic. I will text you later and tell you that again. Because you're great. But, yeah. I mean, you can't let stuff like that get to you too much. Because they're looking for a rise, and so saying things like you did, or like I did, you know, making statements that's inappropriate, don't appreciate that, that's fine. You're setting it up where, no, that's not okay. And as long as it's not fun, it's always hard when you have griefers and trolls, because you want to make sure that whatever reaction you're doing isn't somehow fun for them. And you never know what that means to somebody who's that much of a jerk, right? But just keeping it simple. And then you mute them. Or ban them or whatever. And yeah. I have to say though, I was instantly a little worried when they both started to follow me at the same time. I was like, oh, that's weird. No one's followed me in a while. And I get those, but oh well. People got different hobbies on the internet. Luckily, they're gone. And yeah, Sunanin is having a well-deserved Squadrons evening. But sometimes you need a moderator. Oh well. Well, the good news is I'm almost wrapped up with this, and then, wow, it's 10. So we'll call it a night. But I don't want to end on that note, so I'm definitely going to make sure I am victorious on this project, so that I get to end on a positive. I just love the idea of somebody specifically going through the science side of Twitch to be a griefer. I mean, I guess you just click on whatever, but like, really? Alright, do you, man. Oh well. Human beings, I tell you. You know, it's sort of different doing this than doing stuff at the museum, because at the museum, generally, if we had some sort of ne'er-do-well come up to the desk, they wanted to say something against the museum. And so you're like, fine, man, you can rant and rave as much as you want against the museum. It usually wasn't too personal. Usually. I mean, there were, especially, there were things, but it's interesting because when it's on my channel, it's all about me. And that's going to take some getting used to. But, oh well. Say Levy. I'm so close to getting the side of the jaw done. Ah, it's right there. Yeah, almost certainly. Getting the red staining off, because I haven't touched this with hydrogen peroxide yet, and so the hydrogen peroxide can get pretty far in there, especially if I go to the salon store and can get something that's more than 3% hydrogen peroxide. It should be able to get pretty far in there. So you can see, like, some of the darker areas here, that's just really thick, but I should be able to get most of it. It should be white when I'm done. So don't worry, you'll be impressed. Even, like, you can already see where it's drying, how much lighter that is. So this has little shmoo bits on it, and I've not done anything, and it's already so much lighter. So, no, it'll look great. I think. I say that with more confidence than I actually have, because I haven't done specimen this big, so I'll take a minute and admit that. But it should. Everything that I have read upon the internet has assured me that it will work the same way it always did in the lab. So. Oh, and Library Rat, something you'll find, I think, kind of interesting. I think I posted a link to this on the Facebook page that you're part of, about, like, Jake's Bones. It's a kid from England who had been doing a lot of bone prep. And he had a really cute website, and he had a lot of his tips for how he prepped things. And he, throughout the whole thing, or he's not from England, I'm sorry, he's from Scotland, he references biological washing powder. And it's basically an enzymatic laundry detergent that uses live enzymes or active enzymes to clean clothing. And I'm like, is that a thing? And I Google around, and it's not a thing in the US. Like, you can find it on Amazon for like $190 or something completely just eye-wateringly absurd, but apparently it's fairly common in Europe. And so, because it can cause an allergic reaction in some people, the active enzymes can cause eczema in some people, and so it appears that, right? Yeah, no, road trip, we'll go get some. It's, you can't get biological cleaner in the US, but he uses it to clean his bones because he's just an enzymatic cleaner, so you can use the enzymes to clean bones if you keep them in warm water. And I'm so jealous because I do not live in Scotland and thus don't have evidently legal access to enzymatic cleaner. So I found that fascinating and strange. And there's lots of other active enzyme cleaners, but I don't know if they'd be mild enough that I could use them on the bone without the bone falling apart. Because if you Google, like, biological, or I'm sorry, if you, like, look on Amazon for a biological cleaner, it will tell you that to use borax, which is not accurate, so... Yeah, like just some sort of live bacteria. Like maybe if I just soak it in like yogurt, you know, it's kind of weird. Can you imagine how bad that would smell? Bone yogurt. Yeah, no, I think we have come up with a recipe for the worst. That would be the worst idea. Yeah, sourdough starters are famous for that. That's why people name them, because it's alive. And so they give their sourdough starters little names, and, like, you have to feed it and care for it, and it has moods. Live and active cultures are cool. Well, and that's why, like, a great way to clean bones is to submerge them in a cow pond. You know, so you just put it in some sort of wire mesh container and put it in a cow pond full of, you know, feces and spit and all the weird cow emissions, and the bacteria just nom 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 right through all the stuff you want gone. Oh, like a pond in a cow pasture. So yeah, just the mucky water that cows walk around in and poop and pee next to and do cow stuff. Alrighty. That looks really fantastic, and I'm really happy with it. I mean, if you put, like, a whale in their pond, yeah, you're probably going to make them sick. But, no, if they're already ingesting that water, they'll be fine. Yeah, if they're actually chewing on, like, the dead raccoon or whatever you have in there, then yeah, I mean, it's probably bad for the cow. But I'm assuming the cow has enough wherewithal to be like, ew, it's a rotting raccoon, and spit it out. Although, again, cows are real dumb, so I guess I don't know that. Oh, that's interesting. There's some separation right there. I should be careful. Let's trim this. I'm worried if I just pull, I'm going to ruin something here. This bit here, yeah, no, this is nasty. I really want this to go away. I was hoping I'd just pull it off, but it does not seem to be the case. Who knew that sheep lower lips were, like, real tough? Yeah, this is weird. It's really, really tough, and this is the connective tissue between the two jawbones, and it's, like, real, real tough. You know what, let's just cut this bit away here. This is in fact real gross. Wow, and having this big pile of meat here is pretty gross. Maybe next time I won't have that in the main camera view. It's kind of excessive. Oh, wellsies. Yeah, man, this stuff is tenacious. Yeah, the eyes were amazing. I think that video is still up if you wanted to poke around for it. But the eyes were remarkably fun. And I feel like such a goober. I threw away the one that I didn't dissect, and I wish I had saved it, because then I could just do it at a different time. But don't worry, I will almost certainly be doing another one of these at some point. So. I have to imagine then the sheep eye and the cow eye were very similar. I've never done an eyeball. That was entirely new. So, all right, I'm calling this clean enough. I'm gonna soak it in hydrogen peroxide, which will get a lot of these other areas clean. And I think that's gonna be sufficient. Yeah, because I didn't get that tissue off, but yeah, that's really cool. I'm really happy with this. This is a neat jaw. So, okay. Then I am happy. I'm ending on a good note. I feel good about this piece. I'm gonna blap that guy. Yeah. My camera got moved, so I'm trying to figure out where the focal point is. Alright. So with that, I'm calling it a night. So, library rat. Oh yeah, it is missing a tooth. It was actually missing a tooth when I bought it. I realized when I got it home. So, oh well. Good observation. But you have a good night. Take care, and thanks for having my back. I always appreciate that. So I'll see you guys around.